Part 4: Why We Get Depressed, a Loveless World and No Self Love. The real doozy here is that your depression isn't just a chemical imbalance, it's a rational response to an insane world. You're depressed because the world has perfected the art of making humans feel like disposable atoms floating in a void. Let's do the brutal accounting of who actually gives a damn about you. On your best day, maybe a small handful of family members and a friend or two might genuinely mourn if you disappear tomorrow. Even though they are operating with limited emotional bandwidth while juggling their own disasters, society will pressure them to move on after a socially acceptable grieving period because prolonged mourning makes everyone uncomfortable. The rest of humanity, they're paid actors in the theater of your existence. Your therapist cares for exactly 50 minutes at $200 an hour. Your doctor cares until your insurance runs out. Your trainer cares until you stop paying monthly fees. Strip away the monetary transactions and watch how quickly their concern evaporates like morning dew. And when real catastrophe strikes, when you're bleeding out emotionally in the wreckage of your life, even those precious few who supposedly love you unconditionally often retreat into their own survival bunkers, leaving you face the abyss alone. Chris Rock said it perfectly. I tell my kids to get ready because when you go out in the world, no one gives a shit about you. Hell, half the people in this house don't even give a shit about you. Look around your life. How abundant are you in actual love? The kind of love that sees you completely and chooses to stay anyway. How many people do you feel that from? If it was anything like my life in Denver, it was exactly zero. And I spent 1 year there pretending that isolated deep work sessions at the co-working space were necessary, believing it could substitute human warmth, as if I could hustle my way out of feeling fundamentally unwanted. I was working so much, I had little time for friends. And though I did meet several and was starting to develop bonds with them, the devastating loneliness became crystal clear when I faced an ER visit with no one to call. I understood intellectually how meaningful friendships develop through crisis support, shared experiences, the patient investment of time, and vulnerability. But I was caught in an impossible bind yet again. The hours required to cultivate those life saving connections were the same hours I needed to dig myself out of financial ruin and educational deficit, creating a cruel paradox where the very thing I needed most was the thing I could least afford to pursue. I loved Eddy as deeply as any man can love his dog. Honestly, more than I'd ever loved any girl I dated up to that point. That says a lot about how barricaded my heart had become, how years of womanizing and shallow relationships had left me unable to truly be vulnerable with another person, and how much of a healer that four-legged therapist turned out to be. He was my anchor in the storm, licking away my tears at 1 a.m. as I lay in bed, wondering if my life would ever be more than a beautiful disaster. His warm snuggles and innocent doggy smile were the only reasons I believed I might make it through another night. But I desperately needed human love and connection. I was beyond lonely. I was dimensionally severed from the human experience, watching life happen through bulletproof glass that no amount of screaming could shatter. The science is clear now. Chronic loneliness literally shortens your lifespan as much as smoking a pack a day. Your immune system collapsing under the weight of isolation. You exist in a society that promises connection through screens while systematically destroying every institution that once fostered genuine community. Your great grandmother, she knew her neighbors' middle names. You barely even make eye contact with yours. We've built the most connected civilization in history and somehow created the most isolated humans who ever lived. Our world is built more on utility than connection. Who are you to others if you aren't useful? Useful can be the form of a video game club, but who are you if you quit that club? A church if you change religions, a workplace if you get laid off or retire, a romantic relationship if you become chronically ill or can no longer fulfill their needs, a group, a friend group centered around drinking if you get sober, a family if you stop playing the role they've assigned you, a sports team if you get injured, a social media following if you stop producing content, a study group if you graduate or drop out, a volunteer organization if you burn out from giving too much? Strip away the utility you provide to others, and what remains? Most people discover the terrifying answer is virtually nothing. Just an uncomfortable silence where unconditional love should be, and a stark realization that they've been performing their worth rather than simply existing as inherently valuable. Even those who claim that we claim to love most deeply, we experience in fragments. Loving someone intensely one moment, then feeling irritated and even hateful toward them the next. We casually declare love for our siblings, our pets, our romantic partners, but rarely, rarely examine the depth of, or authenticity of these proclamations. How do we demonstrate this love when it's tested? How consistent is our affection when inconvenience strikes or expectations aren't met? Are we actually truly feeling that love? Or are they just words, most, if not all, of the time? There's one person in particular you need to feel it from the most, though. Imagine someone holds you a piece of paper and asks you to write down everything you love. I'd imagine you'd write parents, partners, children, sunsets, music, coffee, etc. But how long would it take before you write down the word myself? Would you even think of writing that down? This submission isn't accidental. It's the symptom of a culture that's taught you to be everything to everyone except kind to yourself. And it is still the biggest challenge for me, still, even while I'm on the path. It's absolutely insane when you think about it. We'll spend hundreds of dollars rushing our dog to the vet for a minor limp, but ignore our own chronic pain for months. We make sure our cats eat premium food while we survive on gas station coffee and whatever's fastest. We give our pets unconditional love, patience, and forgiveness for every mess they make, but we beat ourselves up for mercilessly for the smallest mistakes. Your dog has a bad day and you comfort them. You have a bad day and you tell yourself to suck it up and stop complaining. Your pet gains weight and you think they're so adorable. You gain 5 pounds and suddenly you're disgusting. This shows that we instinctively know how to love something purely and without condition. We do it for our pets every single day. We somehow decided that we're the only beings on the planet who don't deserve that same tenderness. We can tap into unconditional love. We're just withholding it from the person who needs it most, ourselves. This is why awakening to your true nature, where you possess unconditional self-love, is the answer to all of life's woes. In your true being, there is no depression, anxiety, hatred, need, wants, or desires, because those are all concepts born out of identification with the ego mind, the false quote unquote self that believes it's separate, lacking, and under constant threat. The substrate of love that lines the universe is pure consciousness itself, the aware presence that you actually are beneath all the mental noise and emotional turbulence. It is only there that self love can emerge, and unconditional love for others comes after that. That was my sudden, powerful observation about the sequence of love, how it has to flow from within before it can genuinely reach outward. There's something almost counterintuitive about it, isn't there? We're taught to love others first, to be selfless, but that often just creates hollow performances of care rather than the real thing. When you're running on empty inside, any love you try to give others becomes transactional or desperate. You're hoping they'll fill the void you can't fill yourself. But when self-love is genuinely present, loving others becomes a natural overflow rather than a needy grab for validation. It makes me think about how many people skip that first step entirely, thinking they can bypass their own healing by focusing on everyone else. Hell, that's been a lot of my story as well. But you can't give what you don't have. And you can't love unconditionally when your own love for yourself comes with 1,000 conditions and criticisms. This, many masters told me, is the foundation upon which all true awakening rests. Until self-compassion is unconditional, every other form of love will simply falter.